Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ocarina of Time Dungeon Guide. This is part 2 of Ganon's Castle. If you're just joining in, last time we were checking out the barrier section of Ganon's Castle, and now it's time to take on the upper levels of this dungeon and finally close out Ocarina of Time. So again, last time we were going through all those mini dungeons while we were deactivating those barriers, and that portion of the dungeon was almost entirely puzzles. There was a little bit of fighting, but most of it was, figuring stuff out, flipping switches, lighting torches, what have you. But this upper section of Ganon's Castle is going to be almost entirely fighting. So we're going to be going through these rooms, and in basically every room there's going to be enemies there waiting for us. And we're going to have to take them out before moving on up the staircase towards the final boss of Ocarina of Time. In that first room there, we fought those lizards. I fought them pretty aggressively, too, I might add. Usually I sort of play that a little bit slower. Usually I'll sit there with my shield up and let him hit me, and then only then I would throw an attack in and kind of trade back and forth that way. But anyway, moving on here, we've got some Stalfos, and believe it or not, that's actually the boss key in the center of this room. So as you can see, we've talked about this a couple of times in Ocarina of Time. The Stalfos enemies have sort of a weird little quirk where they drop their shield. And if you get the timing right, you can stab them when they drop their shield. That second one I took out entirely in that way. So a pretty reliable way to take them out if you get good at it. And having killed them, the ring of fire in the center of the room died away, revealing the boss chest. It's kind of nice to know that we don't really need to be looking anywhere for a boss key. There's also no map or compass in this final area of the game. This room, however, has got 2 Iron Knuckles in it. Now be careful, as you walk forward and hit one of them, just be sure to hit only one of them. You can definitely trigger both of these guys, but if you only hit one, that one will come at you and the other one will sort of patiently wait until its turn. So if there's any one trick to this fight here, it's absolutely don't trigger them both. It becomes much more complicated when both of them are attacking you. But we saw these Iron Knuckles in the Spirit Temple video. Basically, I like to take them out by sort of jump slashing in and then back flipping out. I'm not really doing a very good job at it here, but usually what I'll do is wait for them. I'll try to bait an attack before jump slashing in. Some of these I'm just sort of jumping in without an attack going off, which can sort of you can get punished for that. Like that one right there was very close. I'm surprised I didn't take any damage there. But otherwise, backflip, jump slash, backflip, jump slash. Sometimes they'll block it. I think it kind of depends on how close you are when you do that jump slash. But there we go, that wasn't too bad. Make no mistake though, that is a pretty difficult fight. Normally in the Iron Knuckle fights, there are sort of destructible bits of the environment that will drop hearts, and you do not get any help here in Ganon's Castle. So we just passed through the boss door, and we have sort of an interesting room here. We're not going to see the boss in this room just yet, but that part does actually sort of become part of the arena. Part of that ceiling is going to fall away while we're up on this next floor, and we actually can drop down there, and we will have to in the final fight that you're about to see. But I kind of think this staircase is pretty cool. You start seeing this light, and you can hear the organ getting louder, Ganon having his jam session up here. And now I'm going to shut up and let you enjoy this cutscene, because it's a pretty cool one. So there he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Ganondorf himself. He's going to immediately break away part of the floor, and you're pretty quickly going to realize that this is a pretty similar fight to Phantom Ganon. We saw that boss in the Forest Temple, where we're going to rally balls of energy back and forth to each other. The only little difference here is when he actually gets struck by his own spell, you have to then hit him with a light arrow, and it has to be a light arrow. You can't hit him with a regular arrow, so it's kind of important to have magic for this fight. And spoiler alert, I'm actually going to run out at some point in this fight, but you'll see that we will be able to recover from that. So everything's going pretty well so far. You'll see me kind of opening with jump slashes because it does a little bit extra damage. And then I just kind of swing like crazy. No differences in attacks just yet. He does have one other attack that we will see. But it may be a few more cycles before we see it. Extremely long rally there. I think I could probably take a few steps closer, and I think that does make a difference. That was a beautiful shot. It was like I was aiming for a headshot for some reason. That actually does nothing, or it doesn't make a difference. All it does is make it harder to hit. So don't do that. Aim for like the center of his body, like his chest or something. And again, jumping over, dealing more damage. And this is kind of funny right here. I'm looking at my magic bar and I'm thinking to myself, I don't think I have enough magic for another shot. And then I do this really silly thing where I test that theory by firing my last arrow. I don't know what I was thinking there. It's like I wanted to test to see if I had enough magic for another shot, thereby using up that last bit of energy, or magic that is. So as you can see, you can drop down, and there are some jars down there. There are only so many though, so do your best not to miss any shots. Don't go for headshots like me, and don't randomly fire off shots to waste them for no good reason. In any case, I'm back up to full now. And look at this. This is actually his other attack. And the way you defend against this is with a charge-up spin attack. So he's going to release a whole bunch of shots all at once, and then when you see that happen, you want to release that spin, and it'll reflect all of them all over the place. And it looks like that last cycle was enough to finish off Ganondorf there. Alrighty, and here we go. Now that Ganondorf is down and out, looks like he's going to use his final breath to collapse the entire castle and try to take us out with him. So a timer has started, and we're going to frantically try to find our way out of here. You'll notice that Princess Zelda is sort of following along behind us. There are times where she may kind of get stuck, sort of. Like right here, if you were to... You basically trigger her movement by being close to her. So if you were to somehow maybe get in front of her somehow without her moving forward, she could kind of sit still for longer than you like. So try not to run too far away from her, as you being close to her again is sort of what pushes her forward. And as you can see, she of course is opening doors for us. We can't really go too far without her. In at least one of these rooms, we're going to be fighting some enemies. I don't believe it's this one. We're just passing through on this one. Try not to stress too much about the time. Try not to even watch the clock. As far as just moving through this area, you got a lot of time. In this one fight, we're going to be fighting the Stalfos, which of course is one of the more frustrating enemies because they sort of block everything. If there's any one moment to sort of pull out of all the stops, it's that one. And by that one, I mean this one. So Zelda is going to be sort of cut off from us, and then the Stalfos here are going to make our lives miserable by essentially burning up a bunch of time. If you've been watching the whole series, at least portions of it, you've probably heard me talk about how you can aim for this sort of dipping motion that the Stalfos do. And then sometimes they'll just kind of sort of face the wrong direction like that one did there, and I was able to get a few stabs in. But otherwise, that wasn't too bad. I do realize that that can be a pretty challenging fight. It looks like that was also similar to the Forest Temple fight where the first one does not really die, it just gets incapacitated. And if you take too long to defeat the second one, the first one will resurrect and you have to continue the fight. So pretty nasty in an escape sequence, I will admit. But it looks like we got through it okay. If you get through that Stalfos fight, even sort of remotely quickly, that was pretty much the only hard part to this escape sequence. Just kind of relax and follow Zelda. She'll sort of lead you out. And yes, when you get hit by rocks, she kind of stops and panics a little bit, but it's okay. She's tough. She recovers pretty quick to seeing Link get smashed over the head by a burning rock. In this next little section, we're going to see a bridge here. Try to go by that Redead pretty wide, because you don't really want to be getting slowed down by him. There's really no need to fight him. That's just sort of a waste of time. Like I said, just sort of hug the right side hand railing and just try to scoot by him. He may paralyze you once or twice. And then Zelda's going to open the final door there, and we're going to see a pretty cool cutscene of the castle collapsing as we just barely make it outside. Alright, just when you thought everything was done and over with, looks like there's one last fight with Ganon. He's completely transformed using the Triforce of Power, and immediately he knocks away the Master Sword. So for this first portion of the fight, we kind of need to use other tools. I like to use the hook shot here. Basically, his weak point is going to be his tail. Luckily, he grew a big weak point for us when he transformed. That was nice of him. If he had transformed and not grown a tail, we probably wouldn't be able to hurt him right now. So as you can see, I'm kind of rolling between his legs. It's actually a pretty effective, pretty efficient way to get behind him to gain access to his tail. I'll usually roll through, and if I can, you can lock onto the tail alone. I mean, usually when he's facing you and you lock onto him, you lock onto his face, and you can shoot him in the face with the hook shot, and it sort of stuns him very briefly. But in reality, if you just sort of run at him, he will of course attack, but by the time, if you do it right, by the time he swings, you're already sort of on the other side of him. So we're just sort of doing a rinse and repeat here. Sometimes I'll like to try to get a second shot. There's sort of like a cooldown period on damaging him. Like I couldn't hit him again just now. But if you wait a few seconds, you can hit him twice before he turns around. Most of the time you just have to start over with it. In any case, upon doing enough damage there, he's going to fall down. It's kind of cool. The sky sort of lights up and the fire goes away. And we're able to retrieve the Master Sword. And likewise, as Ganon stands up again, the fire will return and the sky will grow dark again. I thought that was a cool little detail. I'm coming over here to this piece of rubble. I'm kind of showing this off. This is cool, a cool little secret. If you bait Ganon into attacking that, a bunch of fairies will appear. It's a nice little backup plan if you're completely out of fairies and low on health. Just be careful. I mean, if he was close enough to destroy that rubble, he's also close enough to slash at you when you try to pick up the fairies. So just be ready to get out of the way if you need to. And now, of course, since we have the Master Sword, we don't need to be messing around with the hook shot. I'm just rolling under his legs and then trying to do a kind of a vertical slash if I can. Try not to stab at the tail, it's just difficult to make that work. Whereas a big, broad vertical slash has a pretty good chance of hitting that weak spot. And now that we've dealt enough damage to him in the second phase, Zelda's going to come in and hit him with a big spell. She says she's holding him down. And then it's time to do the final action in Ocarina of Time, which is to walk up to Ganon with a very cool glowing Master Sword and take him out for good this time. And as the final moments of the game play out, we see a pretty awesome shot of the portal to the Sacred Realm opening up, which Ganondorf will then be sealed away in, and we'll see a few more cutscenes, and eventually the credits will roll, and we will be done with Ocarina of Time. I won't make you sit through all that endgame stuff, including the credits, so at this point, I believe the Ocarina of Time Dungeon Guide is over. If you haven't seen those final cutscenes, I definitely encourage you to go defeat Ganon for yourself. There's some pretty cool ending moments where a lot of characters' stories are sort of closed out. But in any case, that's going to do it for the series. Thank you so much for checking out the guide. If you're just joining us, this has been a long-running playlist of videos where I visit each temple in Ocarina of Time and give you some tips and tricks on how to get through it. My plans for the future right now are also going to be doing a heart container guide, as well as a gold Skulltula guide for Ocarina of Time, so stay tuned for those. And in any case, again, I've already said it, but I can't thank you enough for just being here and listening to me blab about all these old games that I love so much. Again, my name is Haski, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.